lifting the prices or juggling the prices in the air, and whatever numbers fall on the ground, then they call that the pricing. I think to succeed in business, you have to be certainly a lot more strategic about that, and certainly implement some form of business plan so that you can monitor your pricing, and also once you've sorted them out, you don't have to worry about them. So what I want to do today is just do a quick overview, and then we can look at pricing, and I hope it'll be a guide to you and sort of certainly help you to get your prices right. Also thought the easiest way maybe would be to just go to our Business Boost workbook that I give to the clients I consult with, and just give a quick overview about what we do with the consulting, and then go to the pricing, and then talk about the pricing. And then, as I say, then you can type in some questions specific if you can, and we'll see how many we can answer. So with the overview, the business is interconnected. Pricing is part of the structure that's interconnected with the whole. So before you even think about pricing, just consider a little bit about overviewing your business, and let's look at a few things you should be looking at. So some of the things you should be looking at is defining your business. You should get some idea of what clientele you're trying to attract, and I'm going to flick through these quickly because this is part of the workbook, so we'll come to the pricing, which is why you're probably listening, and the unique selling proposition. We need to look at, you know, what's our separation from our competitors and everyone else in the business, and also our goals, and sitting in the marketplace, where do we sit our product positioning? Are we at the higher end, the middle, or lower? Where do we want, as individuals, as entrepreneurs, as photographers, to put ourselves out there in the marketplace? So you have to decide that, so you can relate your price of your products, and also how you present yourself to the general public, which in turn gives them the perception of if you are the type of photography business that they want to deal with. So important to look at what your target market is and where they are, and then when you go out to find them, then your prices should complement your target market. So we can look at that. We look at that when I do consulting, why customers will book. And customers will book, it's not just on price. In my experience, and having done a lot of homework in this area, it relates to mainly trust, the style of photography you do, and also the locality. The price is just one component of the whole, but all are of equal significance. There's a lot of talk nowadays about photographers who keep complaining that there's a lot of other photographers around them, and they're very cheap, and they can't compete with price. Well, you shouldn't compete with price either. What you should compete with is your market perception of where you want to be. If your competitors are there and it's competing on price, the obvious thing is to lift your profile, to elevate yourself above the others, because once you are elevated above the others, then a couple of things happen. One thing that happens is that you have something different to offer from them, and you are perceived as not them. So then you can start to tweak your prices appropriately, and tweaking, of course, usually means putting them up. So it depends on your marketplace, locality, trust, and then the price is part of all the components. They're all equal. And of course, we design our website. There are 5 must-haves on your website. Words can be used to enhance your place in the marketplace. But let's look at portraits first, and let's look at why you're here, which is about the pricing. So first of all, before you can price anything, I think you've got to decide on what sort of products you want to sell. The type of products you want to sell will also be determined by your clientele that you want to attract. So I've got a few examples here of when I had my business and some products that I put out there to give customers a choice. One thing I wanted to do was certainly offer unique products, products that I'd put together that you could only get at my studio. An example of this was our canvas product. It was just an inkjet canvas, but I turned it around into a unique product by making it the best possible. So when that canvas was stretched, it was stretched onto an artist's stretcher frame. It was a 2-inch stretcher frame, a rolled edge. It was enhanced with unique brush texture that I put on myself. And it was an impasto gel that not only gave the canvas a suppleness to prevent cracking in years to come, but also it just added that little bit of difference that separated me from others. In fact, the way I did canvas, I was the only one doing it. So I had a unique product, and that's something I could pass on to the customer and certainly price it at whatever I wanted to. And in my case, my large canvas was $1,800. So you can do that if you've got a product that is unique to you. Also, we introduced metallic paper. Metallic for me had this beautiful look, and again separated me from other photographers. It was in a collage. It was a particular product. It was mounted the way I liked it. So yes, it did jump off the wall. We also had portrait albums and also folios as gift products. So let's look at pricing, and we'll just go, this is the sample price list that my consulting clients have in the workbook. And this is just an example. This is not what you should do. This is to give you some idea of structuring your price list. So this price list is something for everybody. Keep in mind with your prices and your products, the consumer, your customer, will usually buy more than one of your products. It's not that, it doesn't matter really what the price of your 7x5 is, what the price of your 10x8. It's what they buy in the end, what your average sale is. So in putting all your prices together, keep that in mind. It's not the price of your 5x7 or your 10x8 or your this or your that. It's a matter of looking at your price structure with your products and pricing it accordingly. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people, a lot of photographers about a core product. One of the things that totally changed my business around was when I determined a core product. Now, a core product, as you may know, some of you listening, you've heard me say this before, but a core product is a product that you sell to 80% of your customers. Now, to determine your core product, the first thing, of course, you have to do is keep records of what you sell. If you keep records of what you sell, you can look on those records perhaps over the last 3 to 6 months and just determine if you have a core product. Is there a product there that you consistently sell? Because in your pricing structure, that is the one that you can now increase the price of. Because your consumers, your market has said, we like this product, it's at a price we are willing to pay. So you can put that product up. So you can increase that by, 10, 20%. Having increased that product, if it's your core product, and you sell 80% of that product, think of how much extra money just doing that one thing could earn you in the next 12 months. For example, if you sold 30 of those products and you put up the price by $100, then that's an extra $3,000 net profit that you've incurred, and that's one product. So I'm sure that you all understand how important it is to keep your prices moving. Prices are a moving thing. They're not a static thing that you set and then you change them 12 months later. So many photographers think that that's what you do. They're a moving thing. It's a matter of looking at your prices, constantly monitoring what you're selling, and the products you're selling, you have the ability to increase your pricing. So just keep that in mind. As I say in front of you, you may be able to see this guide. So we've got a lot of products there. There's probably too many if you're starting off. I would reduce it a little, but this enables the customer to choose many different things. And with a soft selling system that I try and implement in photographer's business, where there's no pressure, allowing the customer to choose the product at the price they are willing to pay, this gives them plenty of choice. It gives them a choice from a metallic collage, which has got 11 images in it, a canvas wall portrait. The frame collections are specific sizes with a certain number of images in it. A frame collage is where there's specific design layouts. Single prints, of course, are just gifts, or if the customer wants a lot of small ones, these are in matted frames ready for framing, in mounts ready for framing. And then special packages, single prints. One of the things I implemented also into my business as a product were the high-resolution images. The test and measure I did with this, I just introduced them to the price list. So what I did, I just added them on the bottom of the price list, and then I let the customer make the decision of whether they wanted them. What I found in my testing, and I tested it over my next 10 clients, what I found was that 95% didn't even ask or even consider getting the high resolution images. So that was interesting to me, because I'd constantly been hearing photographers saying, some were saying, no, we don't sell the images, we hate it when they take them to Harvey Norman. Some were saying, I charge $1,000 for my images, or I charge $2,000. I heard of someone was charging for a set of portrait high-resolution images. And I thought, well, that's all crazy business, because you have to test it in your own studio. And it doesn't matter what other photographers do, let's face it. It's what you do that counts. You have your own bills to pay. You have your own agenda. You have your own dreams. You have your own wants. You know what you want to achieve in your photography business. So the important thing is, if you're not selling high-resolution images as a product, test it. Put it on your price list. My price list testing looked something like this. I had up to 5 images on my price list, which I have in front of me. 5 images were $385. I had up to 5 images were $520, and then I had 10 and over was $875, something like that. All the images I set at a realistically low, affordable, buyable price at $985. But you see, those prices became insignificant because no one bought them. Well, I won't say no one. We did have one or two buy them. So they weren't a big deal. But I tested and measured. What most of my clients bought were wall portraiture in some form. My core product was my metallic collage, 32 by 32 inch. 80% of my customers bought one of those. So what it meant is when I originally priced it at $9.50, I was able to increase that price incrementally, step by step, by $100 until it came to a price point of $14.50. When I raised it above that, customer demand for it died. So I put it back to $14.50 and then customer demand continued. So I'd found my perfect price point for that product. And being my core product, it was important I maximized the sale. So with your pricing and with your selling, obviously they come together. One complements the other. The important thing is that you maximize your sale every sale. And that's what I found I was always able to do. I can't look back over 40 years and say, gee, I could have made a lot more money if I'd have got my pricing right. I could have made more money if I'd have got my selling right. I had great systems from the beginning that carried me through for many years. So I have no regrets about anything about my pricing, my price structure, or my selling system. So once you get it in place, it's something that you can just leave alone, and then you can focus on other things in your business. It's not one of those things that's bouncing around in your head. You're wondering whether your prices are right or wrong, or you're doing the right thing or whatever. Once you get it set, all you need to do is measure it, constantly look at your sales, see what's happening, see what you can put up, etc. So if we just go to something else now, and I've gone briefly through that, I'm sure your pricing is totally different. When I say pricing, I know I've got no price on there, but your products may be different. So firstly, think of your products. Your products, where do they sit in your marketplace? If you're higher end, are you selling higher end products? Another thing with the products, and many of you have heard this, I'm not one, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on suppliers over my career. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I was always aware that with my products, if I could buy them cheaper or negotiate cheaper prices, I always did that. So when you're thinking of your products, what you sell, keep your costs of your suppliers down. There again, if you can buy a product, and let's say we have a frame collection. Let's say we're going to a framer. Let's say our frame is costing us $150. Can we negotiate with that supplier that we can get it a lot cheaper? Have we asked them? Let's supposing if we could save $50 on that particular frame, and if it was a core product and we sold 40 a year or 50 a year, that relates to $2,500 a year. And that's just off the top net profit. So any saving we can make at the back end, can we negotiate with our lab? Can we save money? Not how much money can we spend giving our suppliers. This is a business. This determines our lifestyle. This determines whether we can go on holiday, send our kids to private schools. This determines everything. So it's very important you get your products right, and then you get your pricing right, and then you monitor your sales to see if you can find a core product, see what isn't selling. Maybe you could eliminate that, introduce different things within your price list. So let's just go a little bit to weddings, and we'll just flick all these things in our workbook here. And let's just look at a simple wedding price list. So what I've found as I've consulted over many years and looked at photographers' prices and price lists, especially with weddings, it just amazes me sometimes that some of the price lists are so complex. The photographer doesn't even understand them. How can they expect a consumer to understand them? So, first of all, look at your price list and say, is this easy to understand? If you're not sure, ask somebody, show it your friend, show it a stranger, a friend of a friend, a relation, and say, does this make sense to you? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Certainly if the consumer gets confused, they're not going to make any decisions about whether they want you to photograph their wedding or not, because they can't make any decision because they haven't got the information clear in their head. This is a very simple one. And I remember a photographer had 8 different coverages with 8 different albums with 8 different timing number of hours on the wedding, and just didn't make sense, because if your price list is confusing, all you're going to talk about to your customer is pricing. And that's one of the problems that's happening nowadays. All people are talking about is pricing. What about the benefits of having you as a photographer? What about what the customer wants? What about finding out about them? What are their needs? But the whole time is spent talking price. Price should be something that is just part of the conversation, not the conversation. So I've got this simple price list. I know some photographers out there will be charging a certain number of hours and then a certain, time on top of those hours, or et cetera, et cetera. Let's consider simplifying it. What if we said all of our coverages, whether they were a DVD coverage, whether it was for an album, whatever it was, included 8 hours of time? So if a bride said, but we want more than that, we want you to stay all night at the reception, well, then you can have a price in your head that covers that. You might say, well, if you want that, that's fine. It's an extra $450. Were you thinking of until after the last dance or until you wave goodbye in the car? You see, the price is gone now. So then we're talking about their needs. They start to visualizing them waving in the car, leaving. And they're thinking, do I want a photograph of that? So if we start with a basic structure, of course there can be changes. Supposing the bride says, well, we don't want 8 hours, we'd only be looking at probably 5. Say, that's fine. Well, just let me work that out. So, okay, so if we just do 5 hours, your pricing will be this. So you can do some little mental calculation in your head. You say, well, it's $100 an hour, it'll be less 3 hours. So you just deduct $300 off whatever price you've set for that DVD coverage. And then the price is gone again. So let's supposing we did this. Would that make it easier? Yes, you'll get questions here, questions there, but we've simplified things in our head. Because we all know brides, they all want individual things. Their wedding is unique. They haven't done this before most of the time. And they all want to be individual. So what are the products that we can offer from the photography that they do on the wedding? Well, let's supposing we want to do an image file coverage. So we can do a DVD or a flash thumb drive, which is the way to go and what most photographers are doing now. We can price that however we want, but let's price it at a realistic price to your expertise of photography, and that will be, your price will be just under your cringe factor to what you think you can charge. For example, to some people who are very experienced, got great work, won many awards, they could say, well, that coverage, 8-hour coverage to me on CD for what the work I do after in post-production is $3,500. All right, so and it could be 10,000, it could be 15. It just depends on how the photographer's mindset can take them to a level. So if you knew you're starting off your photography, maybe you say, well, I'm not that experienced, but I've done a few weddings and I've been told I'm pretty good. You may start at a lower level. You may say, well, I'll do that 8-hour coverage for $1,500. The key is when you book one, you put your price up. When you book another one at that higher price, you put your price up. So then you're starting to ask the marketplace, what should I really charge? I'm not sure. I don't think I'm worthy. Let the marketplace tell you how worthy you are by putting your price up. And there will come a price point where the consumer won't pay. So you've found your comfortable price level. Now, I had one of my clients the other day say, Bernie, that's all very well, but, you know, we do a lot of referrals. And how do we get away with that? Is it a bit unfair that the referrals, you know, 1 minute we're charging this, the next minute we're charging that? And I say, well, look, it's only a little increment step. You're not suddenly putting the price up $1,000. And your referral will probably not know, because the bride that comes in who's been referred will probably have a different slant on her wedding anyway. She may want 9 hours of coverage. She may want 5 hours. So there'll be little tweaks here and there anyway. So just by putting that up $100, it won't make any difference. So then you've got your image file coverage with that. The key to that, and some of you online I can see have seen how excited I've got of late about introducing this gift into the CD-only coverage, which is the best product I've seen in all my years, I think, in wedding photography. It's just amazing product to get more bookings for you, and as a photographer to present your work the way you want to. So what I'm recommending, and I won't go into too much detail because this is really about pricing, and this is another webinar more about how to book clients. With the CD-only coverage, we're introducing a 20-sided special 6x6 signature keepsake album included. So at least the photographer, when the photographer photographs the wedding, they're giving the client a collection of photos of their full creativity. So that's, as I say, another seminar. Let's look at the coffee table album book. This is an album for those that want an album. It's a very simple album. It's 20 photographs, all 11 inches by 14. They're all the same size, by the way. They're not collages, they're just photos. All right. Or it could be 2 to a page, but it's a very simple layout, very simple. So that one you can price and you'd include the coverage price in that as well. So if your coverage price is, say, 2,000, you might make this album 3,500 or 3,750. And then you go higher. So you might have an album at 4.5, and then you might have for those who want the best, top of the range, big wow factor, massive album, you might have that at a high end at 7,000. So if we look at the structure then, we could have a price list that started at 1,500 and went to 7,500. And I'm not suggesting 1,500. It could be anything you want for the image file coverage. But we've got a very simple structure. Each product is totally different. The panoramic album, of course, is the big one. It can be black. Pages can be black or white. It's got a lot more. And then the square album is just a massive album. So this is a simple structure that I carried my wedding photography through with. And yes, I did get people that bought the square art album, not many. But the interesting thing is, one of my biggest sales, which was 15,500 for an album, was a couple. It was their second wedding, and they had the square art album. So never assume, don't try and read your client. Give them the opportunity of telling you what they want. And with a simple pricing structure, it makes it easy for them to make a decision. So that's with the wedding. So just to review a little bit, you've got to think of your marketplace, set a simple price structure for your portraits and your weddings, record your sales, record your bookings, check out what people are buying. What are your customers buying? What your customers buying would be totally different from what my customers are buying or what the photographer down the road, they're buying, etc. Monitor, adjust slowly, bit by bit. Now, I know you may have heard, and I have heard, and heard other photographers saying, well, it's 10% of, cost, and add 20% and divide by 4 and add GST. And I've tried, but I've never come up with a formula to set prices. When I asked myself the question, when I looked in the mirror, as we all do every morning, you might try tomorrow morning, how much should I charge for my photography? And I hope the reflection in the mirror comes back and says, as much as possible. And if that happens, let me know, because that'll be amazing. You should charge as much as possible. The question is, how do you do it? And I've just shown you a way that you can do it. So think about that. It's not a formula. You want to earn as much money as possible, don't you? I know I did. That was one of the reasons I was in business. So just think about your pricing in that way, and think about how you can structure it so you can maximize every sale, every booking. So I'm going to put if you want to ask me questions, just type a message in the box there, and I'll take a few questions before I say goodbye. So if you're going to get questions, just type them in there. With my consulting clients, we will be doing these webinar sessions as a group, and where we can all interact, but that will be specifically for my consulting clients. If anyone is interested, anyone does have any interest in my consulting, want some idea of pricing, I suggest what you do, or you want to talk about two people who are actually consulting with me if you have some uncertainties. What I suggest you do is just talk to me, email me, and we can do a complimentary half-hour Skype session, and I can see if I can help you. I can really only help those that want help. If you're looking to really quantum leap your business, and this normally takes around about 6 months, then one of my programs might be for you. If you're quite happy to carry on, that's fine, and just learn by making a few mistakes here and there like I did until I learned the way of doing it. That's okay only. That's okay as well, because we're in a great industry where it's fantastic, and we really love what we do. We're photographers first, and maybe we just need a little bit of business guidance. As we look around us, the businesses that are popping up, and certainly where I live, there are a lot of cafes opening, but gee, they've spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands, some of them millions, in setting up the facility. Now, I'm sure they just didn't go into business saying, all right, we'll spend, $1 million on a fit out, we'll open this great cafe and hope for the best. I'm sure they had some underlying structure. And interesting that I just thought of that, because I do know someone who's a friend of mine who left the job with $300,000 in super and opened a cafe and lasted 3 months. $300,000 blown in 3 months. Why did he open a cafe? I always wanted a cafe. Employed too many staff, didn't oversee it, had no plan, had no direction. It failed very, very quickly. How easy it is to throw money away, hey? So I just got 1 or 2 questions, and thanks for those questions. I'll just go to Brenton, who says, do you think it's best to sell portraits on the same day or on another day when the children aren't there to distract the parents? Certainly, Brenton, has to be on another day. You make a time for the mum and dad to come back, and without the distraction of the children, and you can always tell them that. I wouldn't recommend the same day at all. So that would all be in your prior, that would have been your prior information that you give the customer anyway. So you set up the correct structure for that. And Andrea, most clients want the price list emailing to them without meeting or even talking on phone. What is your advice on this? Well, yeah, that's very true. But the question is, are they asking for the price list, or are they just asking a question, how much to charge? I think most times they're just trying to connect with you. I don't really think, and it's a mindset. It maybe once you change your mindset, you'll understand what I'm saying, but they just want information. It's not just about the pricing. It's just that's the only question they tend to ask you, right? What's the price? Well, wouldn't you want to know the price? What does a bride do naturally? If she phones a reception, she wants some idea of price. That's the first question in any purchase. We can't even pay for it if we don't know the price. So what we implement in the consulting is the way you follow up your email. And your first follow-up shouldn't be a price list, in my opinion. It should be finding out more. So a simple reply would be, hi bride, thank you for your inquiry and thank you for considering us as your wedding photographer, so that I can help you a lot with the pricing, and certainly I'll tell you a lot more about the structure of our pricing. Can you just answer a couple of more questions? What time was the wedding to be? Was it to be You know, were you looking to having a photographer all the day through the reception or just to the beginning of the first dance? Then if you send her that, then she can respond to you. And if you have the courage, and what you could test and measure, Andrea, would be when she responds to that email and says, yeah, we're just looking for a photographer to the first dance and our wedding's going to be at 4:30 at such and such location. When she responds, you could respond back and say, thanks for the information. That's great. By the way, I am free on the day for your wedding, and I'm sure you've seen the website. Love to chat to you because our pricing structure, although it's simple, it would make it easier if I could give you a call. Can you just send me your phone number? If you can do that, that's the way I would do it. I'd want to talk to them, because unless I can talk to them and I just send them a price list, what's going to happen? They just get a price list. Does that show that you care? Not at all. So isn't it nice to try and start to build a relationship, just like any person you meet for the first time? Surely there has to be a little bit of chatting and to try and build up a bit of a relationship. So just think about that. When someone talks price, they may not, you know, be thinking price. They may be, what they're actually saying is, I'm just thinking about having you for my wedding photographer. Tell me a little bit more. Convince me. And it won't be just price. So I hope that helps a little bit. So in Georgie, yeah, I know you're starting consulting soon, and that's exciting as well. But no, Lisa Perry, who was fantastic the last 2 days, we're not looking at doing another Lisa Perry workshop soon, because Lisa herself is attending a workshop in Perth and also going to Hair of the Dog and things like that. So she's certainly going to be flat out and trying to look after her kids. She might end up having Skype kids, but it's all good. So anyway, thanks for listening. I hope it all went well for you and you can hear everything. So any questions, please email me. I do have a bit of an offer that I've put together for the consulting, where it's a monthly payment. So it'll stretch out over many months. It's a sort of learn and earn as you go. So if you're interested in that, just give us a call, and we'll be doing these webinars. If you've got any particular topic, yeah, certainly get in touch with me. All right, thank you all. Have a great day, and stay positive and shoot well. Until the next time.